Thank you for joining us on another episode of Shadow Band Podcast. We got a special guest with us today, man.
A very special guest. Super excited about this. We have the one, the only Micah Dank joining us today. And right off the bat, if you're only listening to this, good for you, but you should probably go over to YouTube because Micah has a special presentation so that we can actually see what he's talking about, because some of this does get a little bit, I don't want to use the word dense, but it's dense. You know what I'm saying? But anyways, Micah, how you doing, bud?
I'm good. How you guys? What are you guys up to?
You're looking at it. You're looking at it, bud. Getting off work, doing podcasts. It's the name of the game these days. So before we get into the presentation, and I don't want to speak for you, Micah, but I have heard you say this on a couple of shows, just for some of the listeners, because some of our listeners are quite religious. And, I know I've heard you say that this is not necessarily a way to bash or change people's religious beliefs or anything like that. So before you start blowing us up with negative comments, take that.
There you go. So what do you got for us today, Micah?
It is what you basically make out of it. Hold on, let me share. Let me bring this up.
Let's just hop right into it.
Yeah, because personally, when I first heard this, and I'm not really religious, but I am what I would consider spiritual, right? And I felt like this actually kind of enhanced, if anything, that spiritual, situation for me.
It'll do that spiritually to you,
Yeah.
but it does kind of put a dent in the religious a little bit.
Yeah.
Just in the taking the Bible literally.
Yeah, if you're taking it 100% literally, it's definitely a paradigm to be shifted. But anyways, it's all you, Micah. Take it away, man. Blow us away.
All right, wait. Which one of you two hasn't heard me yet?
I have not.
Did you? All right. Okay. All right. So this is astrotheology in the Bible. This might be a new topic to some people, but what it basically is, if you look at the bottom under it, you see the zodiac. This is a proper zodiac. Capricorn's at the bottom, Cancer's on top. This is how the sun basically works through the 12 signs, okay? And the zodiac, it's basically, astrotheology is the mythology behind the zodiac. Now, you know how the Greeks and the Romans, they had their own gods that did this, that did that. It's no different. The Bible is no different than that. It's basically the same exact thing, but it's the same story, and it's the only story that's ever been told over and over again, and I'm going to go through it. So basically what we can do, let me see if I can do this. Hold on a sec. Is that even better?
Oh, yeah, there you go.
All right. So the Lascaux Caves are 40,000 years ago, okay? And what the Lascaux Caves are basically these caves that they found in Lascaux, France. That's why they're called the Lascaux Caves. And what they basically were were these caves that people explored. People went into them, deep into them. And when they went into them, they saw things like this, okay? And now you see the bull on the top left, you see the many faces of the lion on the right, and then you see the horse at the bottom. Now in astrology, the bull is Taurus, the lion is Leo, and the horse is Sagittarius. It's just missing the guy with the bow and the arrow on him. And the interesting thing about this is that they carbon dated the wall, and it came out to about 40,000 years, plus or minus 5,000 years. And what they ended up doing was they brought an astronomer in when they figured this out, because they rewound the sky back with a computer program, because we have the technology to do it now, 40,000 years. And what they did was they printed out what they had, and they tried to superimpose it on this wall. And what they found was the constellations lined up exactly. Okay, so basically what you're talking about is us having knowledge of the zodiac for 40,000 years. Where it came from before then, no clue. But basically, there's all these stories, the Anunnaki, the whatever you want to call them, okay, your Graham Hancock stuff or this, that, and the other thing. We don't know where it came from before then, but we know it's at least 40,000 years, okay? Now, when you're talking about, and the other thing that happened was on June 21st, which is the summer solstice, and only on that day, the sun came into the cave, bounced off the back wall, and lit this up. And it just did that once a year.
Wow.
Much like you have Stonehenge or Manhattanhenge that do similar things. Well, it's the same thing. This is 40,000 years old, okay? Now, there's questions in the Bible that don't really make sense unless you understand astrology, okay? Questions were how Jesus was able to heal the blind, how he walked on water, how he turned water into wine, why he had 12 disciples, why he was betrayed with a kiss by Judas, why he was dead for 3 days, why is his birthday on December 25th. Now, all that can be explained. And the only explanation for all that is astrology, unless you're going to go into apologetics and stuff, which doesn't virulently bring a piece to it, because there's a lot of hoops you got to jump through. Meanwhile, this can all be explained with astrology. Now, Genesis 1:14 says, "Let lights appear in the sky to separate the day from the night. Let them be signs to mark the seasons, days, and years." And that's basically what the zodiac is. Okay, that's what the zodiac does. Is it tells you what to do in each season, what to do. The reason it's so important that you'll find, well, we'll get to that. So basically, the first sign that I talk about is Aquarius. We're going to go through the 12 signs now. And I'm going to give you keywords to look for. That's how you know they're talking about this sign. Now, Aquarius, the first sign is Aquarius, which is represented by the man with the water pitcher, as you can see with the guy on the right. Okay? Anytime you hear the word son of man, man, baptism, because this is how you baptize someone. I mean, not naked, but like this is how you baptize somebody, with a guy with a water pitcher pouring it onto someone's head. That's how you baptize someone. Water pitcher, fountain, stream, river, pond, lake, whatever you want to call it. They're talking about Aquarius. That's the water sign. Then Pisces is another water sign. Pisces is the sign of the two fish in the water. So when they're talking about Leviathan, the fish god, fish, water, Jonah being swallowed by a great whale, that has to do with, or a great fish, that's Pisces, the great fish. Then Aries is the ram. And in Aries, you have March 21st, which is the spring equinox. It's a 12-hour day and a 12-hour night. It's also the Passover, or the passing over of the sun over the equator and back on its way to its height in the summer solstice. Now, in Christianity, the Passover, which in Judaism, the Passover is God passing over Egypt and bringing judgment onto the Egyptian firstborn sons, anyone that didn't have the lamb's blood to the door. Get it? The ram, Aries, the ram, the lamb's blood. Okay? The Jews are the people of Aries. In astrotheology, the passing over of the sun over the equator. But in Christianity, it becomes the resurrection of God's son. So you can see how it's kind of two different metaphors, but they almost mean the same thing. That's just because the metaphors have evolved over time. Okay? So basically, you have Judaism, the Passover, God, and then Christianity, the resurrection of God's son. Now, both Passover and Easter are always in Aries, okay? And that's why Aries is the beginning of the year. So whenever you hear ram, lamb, shepherd, ram's horn, Jews, for example, that's Aries. It's also why the Jews blow the ram's horn to the sky during the high holidays. If you guys didn't know, that has to do with Aries worship. Then Taurus is the bull. And when you look at the sky and you see Taurus during the season where it's supposed to be, you know that you need to put the plow on the bull so that you can plant the seed so that you can harvest in Virgo and Libra. So whenever you hear bull, ox, calf, cow, because cow is a female bull, they're talking about Taurus. Gemini is the twins. It's the story of Castor and Pollux Troy, whose sister was Helen of Troy, the story of Achilles. So that goes back to the Greeks. Okay? So basically you hear twins or brothers, they're talking about Gemini. Cancer is the crab, and it's the sideways moving creature. Just as the sun rises a degree on its axis, so what the sun does, starting December 25th, the sun rises 1 degree, and then every day it rises an additional degree. So if you have the zodiac wheel, it's going like this. The sun's rising a degree a day, every day, making a full circle. When it hits June 21st, it stops and walks sideways for 3 days at that height. That's why it's a crab. And then it drops a degree on June 25th, continues to drop a degree every single day. And then when it hits December 21st, okay, it stops and then walks sideways for 3 more days. And then it comes back to life December 25th. Wow. That's why so basically what happens is in December 21st, God's sun does not rise above the horizon. It's the winter solstice. It's the longest night of the year. The ancients would say God's sun was dead. The ancient Christians would also say, just like it walked sideways for 3 days, that God's son was dead for 3 days. That's where Jesus being dead for 3 days comes. Then, boom, December 25th, that's his resurrection. That's the day of birth. That's why all the gods are born on December 25th. You can look at Horus, you can look at Mithra, you can look at Osiris, you can look at, countless ones. Dagon, Tammuz, I could keep naming them. They're all born on December 25th. And this is why. It's because they're all metaphorical stories for the sun. Okay. Now, in the ancient Egyptian time, the beetle represented Cancer. So the ancient Egyptian zodiac didn't have a crab, it had a scarab. Okay. You get the word crab from scarab. Okay. So anytime you hear crab or beetle, they're talking about Cancer. Then Leo is the king. He's the lion. He's the king of the jungle. And the ruling planet of Leo is actually the sun. Okay, so when they're talking about the kingdom of heaven being on earth, they're literally talking about the sun, God's son, in his rightful home, the heaven on earth. That's in Leo. So lion, lioness, cub, that's talking about Leo. Then Virgo is the woman holding the wheat stalk. So remember before when you said that you plant in Taurus? Well, basically the virgins would cultivate the wheat in Virgo in order to make the bread for the year. So whenever you hear the word virgin, wheat, grain, seed, barley, corn, things of that nature, things that you collect in Virgo, they're talking about Virgo. That's why it's a lady with a wheat stalk. It's both a virgin, and it's when the women would go out and they would collect the wheat in order to make the bread. Libra is the justice. It's the scales, the balance, the just one. The reason it's the justice is because it judges God's sun as it passes over the fall equinox and begins its descent into winter, into cold, into death. So remember how I said that the sun passes over and it's celebrated when it goes over the equator on its way back to its height in the summer solstice?
Right.
Here it's going over the equator again, but it's being sentenced to death, metaphorically. You see how that works? Okay. It's being sentenced to December 21st. That's the day of death. Okay. So whenever you hear Libra is also wine season. So when you plant for the grapes in Taurus, you press the wine here. It's also olive oil season. You press the olives and you get the olive oil. There's plenty of passages that talk about the wine and the oil, the wine and the oil. That's talking about Libra. Whenever you're talking about law, judge, justice, the just one, divorce, marriage, court, lawly things, court-based things, you're talking about Libra. You're also talking about Libra with wine, vineyard, wine press, or olive oil. Okay, so there's a lot going on in Libra. Now, just to mention it to you, you have the bread in Virgo, and then the next sign over is Libra. You have the wine, you have the bread and the wine. Those are the symbols of Christianity. Okay? Scorpio is the scorpion. He is the betrayer. When a scorpion bites you, it leaves an imprint in your skin that looks like a pair of lips. That's where the mafia gets the kiss of death from. It transfers back to that. So picture being an ancient Egyptian, right? A scorpion would bite you, you'd flick it off, and you would see it looked like it kissed you, right? With the pinchers. But it's full of poison, so it's a metaphor. These are all deeply encoded metaphors, okay? So basically, that's why Judas betrayed Jesus with a kiss, is because he represents Scorpio. Each one of the disciples represents one of the zodiac signs, and Jesus represents the sun. It's all solar worship, okay? Now, the sun is judged in Libra, and it's betrayed in Scorpio. Finally, in Sagittarius, this is where the bow and the arrow shoot the sun and inflict further punishment on the sun. Now, I mentioned in Sagittarius, December 21st, that's the day of death. Anytime they're talking about a death, they're talking about December 21st, because that's the day of death in the year. Okay, that's how it metaphorically works. So whenever you hear horse, bow and arrow, spear, horseman, you're talking about Sagittarius. And then you got Capricorn, which is the goat, because he likes to climb the mountain. So if I go back real quick, I could do this faster if I didn't have this full screen, but that's okay. Capricorn's the goat. You see how Capricorn's at the bottom of the zodiac wheel?
Okay.
Imagine the sun in December 25th, which is in Capricorn, starting to climb 1 degree alongside the zodiac wheel. Okay, it starts the metaphorical climb up the mountain. Okay, just like the goats, the mountain goats climb up the mountain. You've seen them before, right? You've seen a goat climb up a mountain on like a 2-inch ledge.
Right. They got calendars
Right.
for them. You could buy
So
them.
that's the 12 signs. Do you guys have any questions based on the 12 signs? Because we're going to be able to get into it now.
I mean, I've never heard it explained that in depth. That's very interesting.
I'm with you. I'm tracking.
tracking.
Yeah.
I'm there. Oh, good idea. I should hydrate though.
Yeah, hydrate is a good idea.
Watching you drink water made me thirsty.
He's a good influence. I'll drink coffee.
All right. So now there's names that Jesus is given. These are names given in church that he's called by. That's all astrology based, and we're going to go through them real quick. When the sun is in Capricorn, Jesus, the Son of God, not the S-O-N, but the S-U-N, he's called the scapegoat of Israel. Get it? Capricorn, the goat. When he's in the man sign Aquarius, he's called the Son of Man. When he's in Pisces, which is the two fish, he's called the fisherman of men. It's also why he feeds the masses with two fish on the mound. He's the Lamb of God, or the Ram in Aries. He's the Lion of Judah, also known as Leo. He's the lady holding the stalk of wheat, Virgo. He's born of a virgin, and he's called the bread of life. In Libra, the scales of justice, he's known as the just one. He's betrayed in Scorpio. He dies in Sagittarius, December 21st. And it's also why he's worshipped on the sun day. Okay? Not the Saturday, because that's the Jewish belief system, which goes back to Saturn worship. That's why it's the Saturn day. It goes back to Saturnalia.
Yeah, we've talked about that quite a bit on this show.
Right. I mean, it's why you have wedding rings. You have wedding rings because of the rings of Saturn.
Mm-hmm.
You're supposed to make your vow in front of your God. You have earrings, or women only used to be women. Women wear earrings, because of the rings of Saturn, because they were told to listen to their God, so they'd get their ears pierced and they'd have hoops, you know?
Right. And the cube, like we've seen the cube that they wear on the forehead, and like at Mecca.
Oh yeah, I talk about that. The Jews, it's called the tefillin. They wear it on their forehead like this. They wrap it around their forearm 7 times, go figure. And then they wrap it around, and I believe it's 3 times here. And that's how they pray. The Muslims also have what's known as the Kaaba, which is the giant black cube. It's all Saturn worship, guys. It all goes back to that. But Christianity is the solar worship. This is the sun worship. The ancient Christians, before 325 AD, Constantine, when he unified everybody into Christianity, ancient Christians used to be known as Helionostics. And Helios means, in Greek, it means the sun. And Gnosis means knowers. They were sun worshipers. That's what they were. It was only when the Constantine came that the literal translation changed. It became a literal Bible to be taken literally instead of metaphorically, like I'm breaking it down right now. Now, look at this picture of Jesus on the left, okay? This is a stereotypical picture I found on the internet. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah.
Right. So you could find hundreds of different versions of this, right? Okay, you're going to see 4 things. You're going to see the sun behind his head. You're going to see his 2 fingers up like this. You're going to see the heart outside the body, and the crown or the crown of thorns wrapped around the heart. Okay, you ever look at a picture of Jesus online? His heart's always outside the body. Why? What's the point of that? What are they trying to tell you? Why is the sun always behind his head? Well, the sun is always behind Jesus because he represents the sun. The 2 fingers up like this is an ancient Kemetic peace sign. This goes back to the Egyptians. This is the original peace sign. This, like John Lennon peace sign, this is the British victory war sign. It's V for victory. The fingers are separate. It's a war sign. This is the original peace sign. So whenever you see Jesus always doing this, you always see Satan, Lucifer, Baphomet, all these deities doing this. They're telling you they're peaceful. People just don't go back far enough in order to see that. Now, the white Jesus picture, okay, this guy on the left, his face is actually a guy named Caesar Borgia, who was the bastard son of Pope Alexander VI. Popes used to have kids. What happened was Rodrigo Borgia bought his way to the papacy. He's part of the elite Borgia family, and he was Pope in the mid-1500s. Now, what happened in the mid-1500s, think about it, the printing press came out, okay, which is, to this day, the greatest invention that ever came out. To this day. It's not even close. The printing press came out, and you were able to mass produce his face and show it. Now, before that, there was no face for Jesus. And it wasn't like the Muslims who can't depict Jesus. Okay? It wasn't like that at all. They just never did because they never had a face for it. So Rodrigo Borgia decided that was him. Now, the crown of thorns wrapped around the heart, outside the heart, and it's always outside the heart. The crown of thorns represents the rays of the sun. Jesus has the crown of thorns on his head, and the sun's behind his head. It's telling you it's the crown of thorns. I'll show you more of that later. The heart outside the body represents the human toroidal field. Are you guys familiar with that?
We talked about that recently. I think I was telling you about the heart toroidal field 2 episodes ago.
Right.
Yeah.
So the heart toroidal field, for those who don't know, is basically it's an electrochemical magnetic gradient that extends out of your heart 6 feet like this. Okay, that's why the elites are trying to keep you 6 feet apart right now, is because they don't want you to connect with one another. Okay, with this pandemic. Okay, that's where the 6 feet came from. It's just that's why it's 6 feet.
Which
Why
is
would it be 6
interesting
feet?
because the quote unquote experts came out and said that the whole 6 feet
It's just
distance,
a random number.
yeah, they just pulled it out of their ass. There was
Yeah,
no
they pulled it out of the sky. That's what they did.
right. Yeah, yeah.
So basically, the toroidal field, it looks like an apple. If you've ever seen one before, it looks like an apple with your core in the middle. And yeah, it's a whenever like one of your brothers or your friends comes up behind you, you know, and you know someone's there and they startle you, they broke your toroidal field. You're not a psychic. This is just science. Walter Russell talks about this. But anyway, so that's that. Those are the 4 things right there. Okay. Now, this is a picture of Jesus on the left. This is Caesar Borgia on the right. You guys see it, right?
Yeah, we see it.
Yeah, that's him. That's the face of Jesus. Okay. Now, we're going to start going into, I believe, some biblical phrasing. Okay. So, the first one I talk about is pride comes before the fall. Have you guys heard of that before?
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to ask our new friend to the show if he can define it for people.
Pride coming before the fall.
Yeah.
Yes, pride cometh before the fall. What it basically means, what you take it to mean, whatever.
Well, it's the Lord. He says a lot that he tears down the proud and the mighty, and so it's people in the Bible who set themselves up as a god, he tears them down. Okay. So it's a warning to keep pride out of your life, or you're going to be humbled.
And that absolutely, I'm moving the venue outside because it's nice, it's cool outside in Long Island, New York. We can have a cigarette, we can chill, we can get to know each other.
Yeah, get some fresh air, bud.
What do you call a group of lions?
Pride.
A pride. Okay. A group of lions is called a pride. Pride is the lion. Lion is the sign Leo. Leo is in July and August. That comes before the fall.
Oh, that's neat.
You see how that works?
That's crazy.
Okay. Micah 5:2. But you, Bethlehem Ephratah, though you are small among the clans of Judah, out of you will come for me one who will be ruler over Israel, whose origins are from ancient times. This is the prophet Micah, my namesake, predicting that the Savior will come from Bethlehem. However, if you know Hebrew, Bethlehem is a combination of 2 words, bet, which means house, and lechem, which means bread. So the house of bread. This is the virgin with the wheat stalk right here. This is the virgin with the wheat stalk. That's the house of bread. So the Savior will come from a virgin. You see how that's encoded in there too? Mm. Now, each zodiac sign is called a house. Some of them call them mansion. In the Bible, it says, in my Father's home, there are many mansions. They're called mansions. They're called houses. They're called homes. You know, there's different words for it. Okay. Now, I've given you the key words already for what you need to look for. And it really is that simple to use that. It gets a little deeper, but I'm not going to get into that. But it's really that simple, those key words. Okay, I'm going to read you a passage next, and I've highlighted the words already for you. I just want you to count them out for me. In this one passage, I want you to tell me how many different signs you see. He gave them honey from the cliffs and olive oil from the rocky ground. He gave his people butter from the herd and milk from the flock. He gave them lambs and goats. They had the best rams from Bashan and the finest wheat. They drank the best wine made from the juice of red grapes. But Jeshurun became fat and kicked like a bull. That's Deuteronomy 32. So you see how many signs are just in this one passage? Okay, yeah, you think it was an accident?
I failed math.
You think it was an accident? No. Now there's 2 other ones that you haven't seen. He gave them honey that I've italicized, honey. In the sign Cancer, there's a group of stars called the Beehive Cluster. Okay, so that's where the honey comes from. The butter and the milk, that's milk-based. That comes from the Milky Way galaxy. The Milky Way galaxy center is in Sagittarius. So your land from Cancer to Sagittarius, that's your land of milk and honey. Okay, when they talk about milk and honey, that's what they're talking about. They're talking about that strip of 5 signs, almost half the zodiac. Mm. That's what they're talking about. Are you guys still with me on this?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sucked in.
Okay, good. Mount of Olives, keep an eye on the zodiac on the left because we're going to do a little trick. Jesus led his disciples to the Mount of, hold on, let me move this. Jesus led his disciples to the Mount of Olives after his last Passover so he could teach them a few more things, pray, then wait for Judas to betray him. While walking to the Mount of Olives, he gave the parable of the true vine. Now, Passover takes place in Aries, as I mentioned, right?
Yeah.
Look at Aries on the map. It's on the left. Right after that, he walks to the Mount of Olives. I just mentioned to you that olives take place in Libra. That's across the zodiac. You literally go across it. They're cross signs. They're opposing signs. While in Libra, they're waiting to be betrayed. The betrayal happens in Scorpio with the betrayer. Okay, so you go from Aries across to Libra, and then you go to the next sign over, which is Scorpio. Okay, now while they're in Libra, he gives the parable of the true vine, or you can say vineyard, wine press, whatever you want, wine related, that's still Libra. So that's how you start to decode this kind of stuff. You guys still with me on this?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because they're going to get more complicated, but I'm going to walk you through all of them. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Revelation 4:7. The first living creature was like a lion. The second was like an ox. The third had a face like a man. The fourth was like a flying eagle. Okay. Have you ever heard of this one before?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's supposed to be like the four-headed monster, right? The first living creature was like a lion, Leo. The second was like an ox. That's Taurus. The third had a face like a man. That's Aquarius. The fourth was like a flying eagle. In astrology, the scorpion is the belly-crawling creature. It's the lowest form of life on Earth. Remember how God condemned the snake to crawl on his belly as punishment for the deception? It's the same thing. It's the lowest form of life on Earth. However, in astrology, the evolved form of the scorpion is the eagle. That is the highest flying form of life on Earth. Nothing flies higher than the eagle. Okay, so the eagle equals Scorpio. So you have Leo, Taurus, Aquarius, and Scorpio. Those are the four fixed signs of the zodiac. In astrology, you have things called mutable or cardinal signs or fixed signs. The reason they're called fixed signs is because they're in the dead of their fucking season. Leo is in the dead of summer. Taurus is the dead of spring. Aquarius is the dead of winter. And Scorpio is the dead of fall. Okay, not only that, but Lion, Leo, Man, Aquarius, those are opposing signs. Find them on the wheel. Ox, Taurus, Eagle, Scorpio, those are opposing signs. It makes an X through the zodiac wheel. So you think this was done by accident?
I mean,
No, definitely not. This is definitely, I mean, I feel like this is just the first big psyop that was probably created by like the church. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, even before then, because this is Revelation, but we were just talking about the Jewish Bible too.
Right. The church being all organized religion, I guess that's the word I should have used. Right.
Now, Revelation 12. This is the woman with the dragon. Have you guys heard of this story?
yeah, this one's nuts. This actually just happened.
I've never read the Bible. Creamer's more familiar with the actual Bible than I am, but
all right. A great sign appeared in heaven. A woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet and a crown of 12 stars on her head. She was pregnant and cried out in pain as she was about to give birth. Then another sign appeared in heaven, an enormous red dragon with 7 heads, 10 horns, and 7 crowns on its heads. Its tail swept a third of the stars out of the sky and flung them to earth. Okay, you ready to see how this is just astrology?
mm-hmm.
A woman clothed with the sun is the sun clothed in Virgo. It's a metaphor. Okay, now if the sun is in Virgo, so basically the zodiac is 12 signs. Okay, there's a 24-hour day clock, so naturally the sun will be in each sign for 2 hours. Okay, it's just simple math. Okay, if the sun is in Virgo, that's between 4 and 6 p.m. Okay, so what you're basically talking about is you're talking about the sun still out. If the sun is out, the moon will be at her feet metaphorically. If the moon is out, the sun is at her feet, right? Another sign appeared in heaven, an enormous dragon. Its tail swept a third of the stars out of the sky and flung them to earth. The constellation Draco on the left over here is the dragon. Its tail goes from Aries to Sagittarius, which is 4/12 of the sign, or 1/3 of the stars out of the sky. It's all just star poetry. That's all this stuff is. Okay?
I get a visceral reaction when I see the word Draco.
So I've given an example of astrotheology in the Old Testament as well as the New Testament. I've been accused of cherry picking verses from the Bible to prove a point. Let's take a much longer passage and see if we can decode it as well.
Well,
so now we
real
come
quick,
up.
that that last passage that you were just talking about, there is like that, the rest of that passage just happened astrologically. I think Jupiter or whatever passed, through the Virgin. There's another, that verse goes on a little bit.
I know what you're talking about. I've heard
as
it.
the rest of the story goes, but yeah, like the end of that prophecy or whatever, it just happened this past year, I believe.
Even if you were to believe that was true, that's still astrology. That's not a literal dragon in the sky and a woman crying pregnant.
No. That's what I'm saying. That story is happened metaphorically,
right?
In the over the course of history, but then also it has happened at least once astrologically, and it definitely just happened.
Are we talking about the Christmas star situation that
No, so kind of. So the dragon in that is the devil, and he swept a third of the stars, which is a third of the angels, when he tried to assume the position of God, and God cast them down to earth. The Virgo is the virgin, which was Israel, and clothed with the sun was like God choosing them specifically.
What do you think what is easier to believe? Is the astrological part of that or the literal part translation of that?
I don't think I don't think either one has to be mutually exclusive. I think both of those things happened.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to move on to the book of Job now. Now, do you guys know who Job was?
From Arrested Development?
Not him.
That's a good joke.
Sorry, I had to.
Yeah, so he was the guy that God and Satan put a wager on if to test his faith.
Right. That's basically what it is right now. So what I'm going to read to you is God's response to Job.
Oh, I love this one.
He says, "Can you lead forth the Mazzaroth?" Now, the Mazzaroth is a literal translation to the zodiac. It literally means that. Mazzaroth over time becomes Mazalot, which survives in Judaism today as Mazel Tov, and you know how old that is good luck or good fortune from the stars. That's what Mazel Tov comes from, and it comes from Mazzaroth. So what's the Lord's challenge to Job? He says, can you bind the chains of the Pleiades? Can you loosen Orion's belt? Those are star metaphors. They're right there in the open. But then he says, can you bring forth the constellation in their seasons or lead out the bear with its cubs? The constellations are the zodiac above. The bear and its cubs are Ursa Major, the Great Bear, and Ursa Minor, part of the Big Dipper. And he says, who can tip over the water jars of heaven? That's Aquarius, the man with the water pitcher. Do you hunt the prey for the lioness and satisfy the hunger for the lions? That's Leo, the lion. Who provides food for the raven? That's the constellation Corvus, which means raven and borders on Virgo. Do you watch where the doe bears her fawn? Mriga, meaning deer, is located in Orion. Who let the wild donkey go free? It's Acellus Borealis, meaning donkey, and is located in Cancer. Will the wild ox consent to serve you? That's Taurus, the bull. The wings of the ostrich flap joyfully. That's Lambda Achille or Al-Thaliman, which means two ostriches in Arabic. Do you give the horse its strength? It laughs at fear, afraid of nothing. It does not shy away from the sword. The quiver rattles against its side along with the flashing spear and lance. That's Sagittarius with the bow and the arrow. Does the eagle soar at your command and build its nest on high? That's Aquila, which is the Latin name for eagle and is a constellation a few degrees above the celestial equator. Finally, he says, can you pull in Leviathan with a fishhook? I mentioned previously Leviathan is Pisces. And that's basically his response. I mean, do you see how this works? Do you see how this is all, it doesn't matter what book of the Bible you're talking about, it all kind of follows the same suit?
This makes sense to me. You know what I'm saying? But again, I mean, I've heard you go through this probably 10 times on different shows. And I'm also not necessarily like a Christian, I guess. I mean, in like the literal sense of it, but like I don't know. To me, like when you're breaking this stuff down, you know, it makes me really think. And I know people have brought this up to you many times, but like the whole J.P. Morgan quote, right? And I don't remember exactly what the quote is, but
he said astrology. He said millionaires don't need astrologers, but billionaires do.
Right. So this just makes me think like that there was like this, I call it the sky clock, right? I go off like David Weiss's definition of like what the sky clock is. So like they had this sky clock, like you said, 40,000 years ago, probably way longer than that, in my opinion. And then at some point, the controlling uh, institutions of the time came along and wrote this in a metaphorical way, right, for reasons of control and to like hide that they were using the sky clock to make decisions.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying, for civilization. So like that's
Yeah.
all I like. As you go through this, that's all I'm thinking. I'm like, damn, they were really like trying to. It's not that the stories or like the things aren't real, because like you said, the billionaires use this stuff, right? The people, the parasite class, right? They use this because there is power behind the sky clock, right?
There's it's survival. It's survival at its earliest form.
Right.
If you look at the sky and you see Taurus, the bull, and you don't know what it is, you know, you're not gonna be able to. Well, we have machines that do it now, but like you back in the day, you needed a bull to plow, you know, and you're not gonna have the bull to plow if you don't know when to plow, and then you're not gonna have anything, you know, in Virgo or Libra, all the stuff I talked about, to harvest and celebrate and this, that, and the other thing. And then, you know, you're never gonna know when winter's coming, you know, and then you're gonna starve. You know, that's basically it. This was the earliest information right here.
Mm-hmm. And they always had like their high priests in like Mesoamerica, especially, and like in Greece, ancient Greece, they had their high priests were tasked with watching the stars. Like that was like a big part of their job, if you want to call it that, was to watch the sky clock. You know what I mean?
Right.
For decades. Like that's what you'd have, a guy who just stood on the top of the freaking pyramid in Mexico and just watched the stars. You know what I mean? It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, those places were built specifically for a reason. I mean, that's the wise men that found, you know, Jesus. That's all they did. They just sat there and watched. They knew that something was supposed to be there, and so they just sat there until they saw it.
Right. So here's where it gets a little crazy. How Jesus was able to heal the blind. If you're talking about the man, okay, God flesh, the man, he put his fingers on the blind man's eyes, he could see. However, the sun does the same thing too. Right now, if you look behind me, it's dark. It's dark right now. I can't see. You know, when the sun comes up in the morning and touches my eyes, I have the gift of sight again. Okay. How he walked on water. You ever seen a sunset on a lake before?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same thing. How he turned water into wine. So do you guys know why God is considered a man and Mother Earth has always been considered a woman? Do you know where that comes from?
I do, but I've cheated.
No, I don't know it.
So it has to do with God's sacred fluid. It's his rain, the rain of God. Okay. In Hebrew, the word is shemen. We get the word semen from it. It's his sacred fluid. So God's sacred fluid comes down from the heavens and impregnates Mother Earth. And from her belly, trees, vegetation, fruit, vegetables, all sorts of things grow. Okay, that's why she's considered a woman. Now in Taurus, you plant, you have April showers bring May flowers. That's Taurus season. So you plant in Taurus, and then it rains and it rains and it rains, and then things grow, and then eventually you pluck them in Libra, and then you smash the grapes and make the wine. That's how you turn the water into wine. Okay, why he had 12 disciples, we went over that. I'll give you another example. You're familiar with, I told you Judas was Scorpio. I'll give you one more example. You familiar with Simon Peter?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, let me ask you a question. Charlie, right?
Yeah.
Charlie. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Your name's Charles, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And your name's Charlie. There you go. You know, Jeff, your name's probably Jeffrey.
Correct. This
right?
guy's smart. He's on it.
These are names. These are names given to you, and these are shortened versions. These are nicknames. Okay.
Okay.
But now, why would Simon? And they make sense. But now, why would Simon be given the name Peter?
I don't know.
Those two names have nothing to do with each other, unless you understand astrology. Do you know what Simon's job was?
He was a fisherman.
He was a fisherman. And what sign of the fish?
Pisces.
Do you know what my joke was going to be?
You know what the ruling planet of Pisces is?
No.
It's Jupiter, or Jew Peter.
Oh.
Okay, so Simon Peter represents Pisces. Judas represents Scorpio. the stories that I've told you, all of them follow suit. Okay. Now, why he was betrayed with a kiss by Judas, we went over that. Why he was dead for 3 days, we went over that. Why is his birthday on December 25th, we went over that. But it doesn't stop there. It's not just random passages in the Bible or elongated passages in the Bible. I could do different Bible stories. We're going to go through the entire book of Matthew to show how deep this runs. Okay.
Sweet.
Now look at the zodiac on the left. You can follow this if you have any questions. Okay. What I have circled right here is the summer solstice. That's June 21st. Okay.
Okay.
It's at the height of the zodiac wheel. Get it? The sun is out the most. Directly under it, it's cross sign in Capricorn at the bottom. I mean, yeah, in Sagittarius right there at the bottom, it's the darkness. It's the winter. So Matthew 3:2. Repent of your sins and turn to God, for the kingdom of heaven is near. Well, I mentioned what the kingdom of heaven was, and it's Leo. Each gospel begins at one of the 4 major points of the zodiac and ends at one of them as well. The 2 solstices and the 2 equinoxes, when connected, form a cross. This is known as the cross of God's sun. The kingdom of heaven is Leo, whose ruling planet is the sun. This is the only sign that the sun rules over. This right here is the firmament between Cancer and Leo. You see these dividing lines? Some people call them cusps. Some people call them handover dates. Some people call them firmaments. This is it. It's not a flat earth with a dome over it. That's not what the firmament is. The firmament are the dividing lines. They're the handover dates from one sign to another. There's a saying in the Bible, I forget which one it is, that says the firmament shows God's handiwork. Now, the firmaments are the dividing lines between signs. Now, the next passage is Matthew 3:4. John's clothes were woven from coarse camel hair, and he wore a leather belt around his waist. For food, he ate locusts and wild honey. If we take the most famous drawing of a man, Leonardo da Vinci's Vitruvian Man, and superimpose it onto the zodiac, we can make sense of this. Cancer being the head is why he eats wild honey. Get it? His head is in Cancer. That's where the beehive cluster is. His mouth is there, right?
Right.
Okay, that makes sense. Leviticus 11, what's clean and unclean to eat? All flying insects that walk on all 4s are to be regarded unclean by you. There are, however, some flying insects that walk on 4s that you may eat. Those that have jointed legs hopping on the ground. Of those, you may eat any kind of locust. That's why he ate the locusts, because he was allowed to. Okay, he was allowed to. So there you have the locust and you have the honey. Okay, that's why he ate that. A little lower down on the body is the clothes made out of camel hair, or camelopardalis, which is in Gemini. So right now he's eaten already, okay, and he's wearing the clothes with camel hair. Makes sense? You're following the signs, you're following the thing on the left?
I'm with you. Yeah.
Okay. Moving a little lower on the body, you'll get to the midsection, which is where he would wear the belt. Taurus represents the bull, and the female is the cow, and that's where you get the leather. However, the belt part, Orion's belt sits between Taurus and Gemini. Excuse me. So next would be the baptism. Now, how are we going to go from the beginning of Leo to a water sign to signify the baptism? You would go across the zodiac. Cross signs, as they are known, are the signs of opposite locations. For example, Aries and Libra are cross signs. This is very important. The sign's 2 most important signs are its neighboring sign and its cross sign, and you'll find that it always talks about that. This is encoded into the books as well. Here, in this picture right here, we see how it makes the leap from one firmament to another. The man with the water pitcher in Aquarius is personified as John the Baptist with the water. It's important to note, too, that John the Baptist and Jesus are always exactly 6 months apart. When you think about the fact that Jesus was born on December 25th and rises a degree a day, then that must mean that John the Baptist is born on June 24th and decrease a degree a day. This is why in John 3:30, John says, he must increase, but I must decrease. It's also why the St. John's Day, okay, is exactly 6 months to the day of the birthday of Jesus. So the next story is the temptation of Jesus. So we're going to go back to the Cancer Leo firmament of July 24th, where we were. This is simple. He's tempted for how long?
He's tempted for how long?
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't say, but he was in the desert for 40 days.
40 days. Okay, so July 24th, count 40 days. That takes you to September 2nd, right? Just pretend like I researched this. So September 2nd, that's right in the middle of Virgo, which is the lady with the wheat stalk, the bread and everything, right?
Yeah.
So watch what the very next passage is. Matthew 4:3. If you are the Son of God, tell these stones to become loaves of bread. Here we see the mention of the bread, which tells you that the sun is now in Virgo. The next passage, Matthew 5:17 and 22. I did not come to abolish the law, and if you are even angry with someone, you are subject to judgment. This takes place in the firmament of Virgo and Libra. When you're at the firmament, it can be used on either side. They could be talking about bread, or it could be used to talk about what it is now, law and judgment. Libra, the scales of law, who judges the sun before its descent into fall and winter. Remember, Libra judges, Scorpio betrays, Sagittarius kills. Okay? So speeding this up, Matthew 7, 9, 10. If your children ask for a loaf of bread, do you give them a stone instead? Once again, this is being the firmament between Virgo and Libra. It has now switched back to Virgo. Matthew 7, 15, 16. Beware of false prophets who come disguised as harmless sheep. And can you pick grapes from the thorn bushes? Well, the sheep are the ram in Aries, and the grapes are in Libra. Once again, these are opposing signs, as you can see the sign that I've made on the left so that you could very easily follow along with this. Now, later that same day, Jesus went beside the house and sat beside the lake. The story now moves from Libra to the barrier between Aquarius and Pisces, as he's right beside the lake or the two water signs. Get it? It's a metaphor. He's between the two signs. He's by the lake. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It doesn't say he's in the water. It says he's beside the lake. Okay. As it's across from the Virgo, the wheat stalk, the grains. Is it ironic that the next parables from Jesus are the wheat and the weeds, the mustard seed, and the yeast? Moving right along, next is the fishing net parable. So now we go back across from Leo, Virgo to Aquarius, Pisces. Those are opposing signs. We're back in Pisces because we're talking about the fish net parable. Then Gemini is the sign of two men. So you just walk along the zodiac wheel, as I've highlighted on the left, technically twins. There's a mention of brothers in this passage. He's just the carpenter's son, and we know Mary, his mother, and his brothers, James, Joseph, Simon, and Judas. Now, this ends at the firmament of Gemini, Cancer. Now, look at the dividing line between Gemini, Cancer. What is its opposite sign? What is it dividing between?
Sagittarius and Capricorn.
What happens between Sagittarius and Capricorn? What day is that?
December.
December what?
25th? 21st?
No, not 25th.
December 21st?
December 21st, which is the day of death, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Day after. That's
Okay.
right, that's right.
Now, what's the very next story? The very next story is the death of John the Baptist. As I've mentioned previously, death comes at the end of Sagittarius. The firmament of Sagittarius, Capricorn, and Gemini, Cancer are opposing signs. So let's just take a sentence which I made up, which sounds like it could be in the Bible, but isn't, right? If I say to you, the rulers were divided by war and love, it split the land in half. You could read that as a little translation. Could you see that phrase being in a Bible?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. The ruling planet of Aries is Mars, who's the god of war. The ruling planet of Libra is Venus, who's the goddess of love. There is your war and love. If you connect it like I've done here, it literally splits the land or the zodiac in half. These are how the metaphors are combined. This is how everything is done. Everything is deeply, deeply, deeply encoded in this sort of way. Matthew 14, 17 and 32, but we only have 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. The bread and the fish happen to be opposing signs. Virgo and Pisces are opposing signs in the zodiac. Pisces is the 2 fish. That's why he feeds them with 2 fish. The loaves of bread are Virgo. This is the cross of God's son. You see what I've done here? I have made the cross.
Right.
This is the cross of Jesus that he lives and dies on. We were just in Virgo, and now next is Libra, which is law and wine, remember? What stories do we get now from Jesus? We get the story of the temple tax, the unforgiving debtor, divorce and marriage, and the parable of the vineyard worker. So as you can see how this is basically working. Now, we were just in Libra. Next is Scorpio, the betrayer. This is when Judas betrays Jesus with a kiss. So we had Libra, Scorpio. The next one is Sagittarius. That's the death. Then Jesus is crucified. And that's the book of Matthew, guys. Do you see how this works?
Yeah. Well, yeah. You tracking with this right now?
Yeah,
It's a lot of information. It's
Yeah.
like there's a lot of info, man. It's like,
now, what is it? I understand where the December 25th came with Constantine, but that's not now, like, that's not when Jesus was actually born. So what was the reason?
Well, because you could say he was born at the Feast of the Tabernacles. You could say he was born at the Feast of the Tabernacles. You could say he was September 11th. Okay, which incidentally is why the Ethiopians celebrate New Year on September 11th.
I'm pretty sure he was born during the Feast of Trumpets in April.
Well, the reason that would be the case metaphorically Metaphorically, the reason that could be the case is because of Aries, and Aries starts the year. It's the birth. Aries is the birth. The
Yeah.
head starts in Aries.
Yeah.
But my whole case here is that I don't believe he ever existed. I think this is just sun worship in a very deeply encoded way. Let me just show you a couple more things, okay?
I'm
Moses goes up
50-50 on that. I'm like halfway on that because I know that it's sun worship, just like Saturn worship. Saturn is the original sun or the first sun, and that was, so I get that, but I do have a feeling that there was, like, people will call them star seeds, right? Like there's these people I think that did exist that came here and had some effect on this world. So I wonder if they just merged the sky clock, the astrotheology, with events that were happening at the same time. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud.
So you
This
think
story is
that- you
amazing.
think that- okay. Which one?
Is this the where Moses comes off the Mount Sinai with the tablets and they're worshiping the cow?
Yeah, the golden calf.
Dude,
So let me ask you a
this
question.
story is so savage.
Charlie, what's more likely to you? What is more likely to you? So you know that these Jews left Egypt, supposedly, right?
Yeah.
And they couldn't even let bread rise. That's why there's matzah to this day, right?
Couldn't let bread rise?
Did you know that? They couldn't let bread. You know what matzah is?
Yeah, it's unleavened bread.
Unleavened bread. That's why you have it now, is because the Jews left Egypt in such a hurry to get out of there that they couldn't even let the bread rise. So they had to take it as the flat pancake that it was. And that's why you still have matzah to this day. So they're rushing to get out of Egypt. Do you think these people had enough gold together they were broke, they were poor, they just took what was on their backs. They didn't have money, they were a slave class. They had all this gold, and then suddenly they found welding equipment in the mountain of the desert.
Well, I mean, the Bible says that the Egyptians gave them gold and like just whatever, take everything, because they wanted to appease the Jewish God. So they actually gave them all their jewelry and stuff as they left. So that's what they meant. That's what it says right before this, that they asked Aaron, melt down our jewelry and make a cow for us to worship.
Well, I would say that it's more astrology. I would say that the sun is the golden part and the calf is the bull in Taurus. So they were worshiping.
I mean, that's definitely an Egyptian, like that. That's where they got it from being in Egypt for so long, because that's
right. But the thing is that the Jewish people are the people of Aries, not Taurus. Okay, they're Aries with the ram's horn. They worship the ram. They sacrifice the lamb. They slaughter the lamb.
Mm-hmm.
They slaughter the ram. They left bull worship. Okay, so he breaks the commandments, becoming the first lawbreaker. Now watch this. The ancient Egyptians used to worship sun and Taurus, hieroglyphs of the bull with the sun between its horn on the left. You see the sun between its horns. Okay, right. These are hieroglyphs that they used to have. Now the Jews are the people of Aries. That's why they blow the ram's horn to the sky in the holidays. Now the Christians are the people of Pisces. That's why they have the Jesus fishes shown below. This is also why Jesus is able to feed the masses with 2 fish. The 2 fish are Pisces. John 21. So Simon Peter climbed back into the boat and dragged the net ashore. It was full of large fish, 153. But even with so many, the net was not torn. This red thing right here on the left, the Jesus fish, is known as the Vesica Pisces. Okay, do you know what its mathematical equation is?
Nope.
It's 247 over 153. There's your 153. The ancients knew this. They knew the ancient sciences, and they encoded it in here in order to keep it from people. Now, Genesis 32:30. And Jacob called the name of the place Peniel, for I have seen God face to face, and my life is preserved. But here is the eye of Horus on the left, and to the right is a sagittal cut of the human brain, with that nipple-looking thing in the middle being the pineal gland, and the thing with the number 7 on it above it looks like the corpus callosum. You see how they're identical? The ancients used to know this too. Okay. In many Buddhist traditions, 49 days is the total mourning period, with prayers conducted every 7 days across 7 weeks. These Buddhists believe that rebirth takes place within 49 days after death. It just so happens that the pineal gland becomes visible on the 49th day of gestation.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
Now this right here is interesting.
Oh yeah.
This, do you know what it is?
That's the tabernacle.
No. This is Solomon's temple.
Oh, okay, yeah.
This is Solomon's temple right here. Okay, cubits at the bottom. This is how it was built. This is, and the Bible is very descriptive of how it was built. Do you see anything interesting about it?
Nope. I failed a lot of school.
It's okay. It's an overhead view. Does that help?
Well, yeah, I got that part. Didn't fail that hard.
This is a view of Solomon's temple from above. It's important to know that Solomon is not a name of a person. It's a combination of 3 words for the sun, back to sun worship. Sol, or sun in Latin, Om, or sun in Buddhism, and On was the city of light in Heliopolis in Greece. That's why when you go into a bedroom, you turn the lights on in order to be illuminated. Solomon. This was created using sex magic. Yakin and Boaz represent the testicles from this view. The porch is the base of the penis, the holy place is the shaft, and the holy of holies is the head. The ark or the hole of the penis is where the DNA information Torah is stored. The store chambers represent the female womb, and the 2 entrances to them represent the fallopian tubes where the eggs come out. This is just sex magic. Do you see a penis entering a vagina now?
Now that you say that, I can see that. Yeah, I guess.
Okay, that's how this was made. Samson and Delilah. Okay, this is another story. We're talking about the sun, how all these biblical stories are talking about the sun. So, okay, Samson, okay, in Hebrew, and I can read Hebrew, so trust me, this is correct. This is Samson right here, under sun. Under it is the 3 letters. It's a Shemesh. Okay, Shemesh is the sun, which is the root word of Samson, which means little sun. Okay, the Shamash also is, you know, the Hanukkah candles that you have to light one and then you use that one and light all the rest. Mm-hmm. That's the Shamash, the one that you light everything with. It represents the sun. The story of Delilah is that she cut Samson's hair, which takes away his power, and he ends up gouging his eyes out and blind. This is just another story of the sun and how it goes away at night, and the night beats the sun, and then people are blind. It's the eternal battle between the sun and night, or set from the ancient Egyptians. This is why we have a sunset. The word Delilah at the bottom, its root is Lila. Lila in Hebrew means night. So Samson is little sun, and Delilah means night. So these are just metaphors. There's a town in Israel called Megiddo, which is a 3rd century church was found under another church. It's one of the oldest churches known to man. Its center of the floor of the mosaic is of the 2 fish Pisces. See, they knew about this ancient religion, the ancient science back then of astrology and astrotheology. This is the oldest church in Israel. And that's what its main mosaic in the middle of the floor is. It's Pisces, it's the 2 fish. Megiddo is also the root of the word Armageddon, which is where the war on earth and the rapture is supposed to begin. Then you have the Roman Catholic Catechism, which says that all forms of divination are to be rejected. Recourse to Satan or demons, conjuring up the dead, or other practices falsely supposed to unveil the future. Consulting horoscopes, astrology, palm reading, interpretation of omens and lots, the phenomena of clairvoyance, and recourse to mediums, all conceal a desire for power over time, history, and in the last analysis, other human beings, as well as a wish to conciliate hidden powers. They contradict the honor, respect, and loving fear that we owe to God alone. Okay, so let me ask you a question. If there's so clearly astrology in the Bible, not only in the Bible, but hidden and encoded in the Bible, why would the church go out there and tell you that it's evil?
Well, see, this is my whole thing about this, right? And like going back to the Moses coming off Mount Sinai situation, right? Like in every new age, right, there's like ethnic cleansings and all of these things, right? And it's like, you know, this is what I was saying earlier, where I feel like the organized religions used like the sky clock to create stories, and it, like, I don't know, they just pushed this whole thing, kind of like what they're doing now, right? Like we're moving into a new age, and now they're pushing transhumanism. You know what I mean? And like, if you go back,
well, we're in a new age, yeah.
Right. But you know what I'm saying? Like, and then you go back to the previous age, and they were switching from one to the next, and then it's like every time they do an ethnic cleansing, and then they push this new world religion. You know what I'm saying?
Well, the Catholic Church has always done anything they could to conceal I mean, they didn't let people read the Bible to begin with, and even though they spoke a completely different language, they only read it in Latin. They've always tried to use religion as like, the power arm over the people. So this is like par for the course for them.
Right.
Right.
You said that way more eloquently than I did.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're
okay.
they're notorious for doing it. I mean, they've got there's so many things that the Catholic Church added to the Bible, which the Bible specifically says don't add or take away anything, and they're notorious for doing that.
Whole books, entire
Yeah,
books.
I mean, they're notorious for doing, but for the purposes of like dominating their their people. So yeah,
Right.
telling them that they shouldn't do, don't look to the stars and don't, I mean, it's just, yeah, this is right. That's their shtick.
Right. Okay. So now I'm going to show you how this is encoded in everyday life. The Phoenix Suns. Phoenix is the story of Christ the Sun, a flaming form of life that dies and rises from its ashes, metaphorically. Jesus was the sun who died for 3 days and came back to life. Okay, so that's why Phoenix is the sun. Okay, now why or what is the woman's Phoenix team called? The Phoenix Mercury. Mercury is the ruling planet of Virgo, the only woman sign. So how else are things encoded into everyday life and entertainment? You guys remember this movie?
Yeah.
I've never seen it.
Really?
No, I don't watch.
Classic,
I don't watch John Travolta movies.
Classic, dude.
1990 movie Face Off starring Nicolas Cage and John Travolta. What are their characters' names? Nicolas Cage's character is Castor Troy and his brother is Pollux Troy in this movie. That's just Gemini. What about Travolta? His name is Sean Archer. Archer is Sagittarius, the man with the bow and arrow. Those are opposing signs on the zodiac. Remember this music video, Zombie from the Cranberries?
Yeah.
Wow.
1990 song video from Cranberry Zombie. Here's Dolores O'Riordan, painted gold like the sun, and her head dressing represents the rays of the sun, much like Jesus in the crown of thorns. But is that it? Well, what's the next frame after she's like screaming like this? It's the sun on the cross with the Sagittarius under it, shooting the bow and arrow to kill it. Okay, this is encoded occult information into everyday things, and people don't see it. People don't think of it. And that's basically it.
So okay. So like that's where I get deep into this stuff, is with the occult symbolism hidden in shit. We've talked about this a lot, right? Especially with like the Saturn stuff that we've talked about, the countless logos and things that like are hidden symbols of Saturn worship. You know what I'm saying?
It's everywhere.
What's your thought on this, Micah? Like, because I know you know about the Saturn stuff too, but like, let me back up. Electric universe. You're familiar with the electric universe theory, I'm sure?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay. The idea that Saturn was its own system at one point with the Earth and Mars and I believe Venus, and then it was captured by the sun, and that caused like planetary upheaval and blah 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 blah, and the ancient people would encode these symbols into a lot of hieroglyphs and these kinds of things as well. Do you think that is kind of like what we're seeing now? Like this, it's like a new age, it's a new thing. So now it's just like they're pushing all these different agendas to get rid of like Christianity to bring in this new.
Absolutely. Look, like the way I put it, right? The age of Taurus, that was the age of the Egyptians. That was their golden age.
Right.
Okay. Then the Jews come around. The Egyptians start to fade after Taurus. The Jews are the people of Aries. Okay. They come out with the Bible. Then age of Aries ends. Pisces starts. The Jews start to fade in numbers. Christianity comes up. Okay. Christianity has been over since December 21st, 2012. Okay. The day the Mayan calendar ended. That wasn't the end of the earth. That was the end of an era. Okay.
Right,
In the Bible, they call it an eon. An eon is a sign. Okay. An eon is a sign. It was the end of Pisces. Absolutely, Christianity is going to start to fade. Absolutely, it will.
What do you think the new religion?
Okay? Because people don't understand what I just explained to you.
Right.
All this stuff. People
what do
don't
you think the new religion is going to be?
It's going to be. I think it's going to be transhumanism.
Scientism, transhumanism.
It is. I mean, it's the sign of. It's Aquarius. It's the sign of the man. It's going to be building the man up.
That's where it all ties into for my conspiracies that we've talked about, is that this, right? So like what he's decoding as far as like the astrotheology, like that all makes sense to me, just because again, I haven't read the Bible from back to front, you know what I mean? So it's easy for me to hear this and be like, oh, that makes sense. You know, the sun going down and it's at its lowest point for 3 days before it starts. Like that, for me, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. But then I'm like, oh shit, like the end of the last age, the Mayan calendar, which is also weird because that's when you start seeing all the Mandela effect shit. It's just weird, man. It's weird.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
So then, so you're saying the next sign is Aquarius?
Right. Because it's called the precession of the equinoxes.
Right.
Okay. It's the quick explanation for it is there's 12 signs. Each sign is 2,160 years. Okay. That makes 25,920 years. That's called the great year. Okay. Whereas in the zodiac wheel, you go from Aquarius to Pisces to Aries. In the precession of the equinox, you slip backwards. So you're going from Aries to Pisces to Aquarius. The next sign will be Capricorn.
What's Capricorn again?
The goat.
The goat.
Ooh.
Interesting.
Wow. This is deep, bro. I'm going to have to like watch this again because it's a lot of information and I'm not as intelligent as I wish I was. So
like from this stuff, your takeaway is that the Bible is all a or like it's just all a metaphor.
They're all different variations of the same story of the sun going through the signs, being killed, and coming back to life.
Now, you found that, like, how do normal religious people take that?
A lot of them get angry. A lot of them, some of them, it strengthens their faith. A lot of them, if they're very into the religion, sometimes people dive headfirst into this and ask me for all my work, and I send it to them. They buy my books, you know, where I basically talk about this because I go deeper into it. Like I didn't even go into anything with you guys. Like I've been studying this for 10 years.
Yeah, how many books you got out now? 4,
6.
5, 6? You got 6 out now?
Wow.
Yeah, he's got some stuff. I'm definitely going to grab some of those books because this is interesting to me for sure, especially when I get into, like I said, the new this new age that we're going into, because you know I'm not about it.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least I'm not about the way that they're doing it, you know what I mean, as far as the parasite class. But
well,
as long
that's
as
like,
you're not, they're going to continue to use it as long as you're not aware of it.
Yeah, for sure.
That's the thing, is like there's I believe that there is a lost knowledge of, you know, just the way that the universe is kind of, there's things to see in it. Like it's got this weird relationship with just how reality plays out, where it's like you can see that the sky, the stars,
Well, this is
there's
why
something there, and I think people were way more in tune with it back in the day,
right.
than like the majority of people are now.
Well, you give people credit like this. Like there's something, you guys heard of the phrase chronological ethnocentrism?
No,
I think I've heard that, but I'm not sure what
Maybe
that
heard
is.
So it's basically, the long story short is it basically says that we're the furthest along in time that we know of. There could be like parallel universes or we could just all be in a specific time, and there's, do you know what I'm saying? Like there's all these theories. But as far as we know, we're the furthest along in time. We're the ones living on Earth. We're the ones who are alive for this period of time. We're the furthest ones along. Therefore, everyone before us is retarded. That's basically what chronological ethnocentrism says.
Yeah.
Basically, they don't have
I think
the
I've heard
medical
Graham
knowledge
Hancock.
they had.
I think I've heard that from Graham Hancock. That's probably where I've heard it.
They don't have the medical knowledge that we have. They don't have this. They didn't have that. No, they just had different problems. You know, they had different problems. That's all it was.
Yeah. So for me, the reason that it kind of like strengthened my spirituality and things, right? My belief in a creator, right? I don't want to give it a name because I don't know which name it is, right? Is because I don't see how like the sky clock could function as well as it does just by happenstance.
No, that's how I believe in God. Listen, don't get it twisted. I believe in God. The sun tells the hour of the day, the moon tells the day of the month, and the zodiac tells the month of the year. It's a perfect calendar. It was created for us. I believe in creation in that sense.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, there was a level of intelligent design.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Yeah, I mean,
to figure out. And you know what? This is an ancient knowledge that everyone used to have. Like I told you before Constantine, You're talking about the Dark Ages when the priests used to chain the Bibles to the pew before they had before the printing press came out. But before 325 AD, everybody used to read it like this.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody used to understand the star stories, the sun stories.
Yeah, the original Christians, right? Or the original,
Right.
right? Yeah, yeah. Before organized religion or the church came along and started doing all of its child fuckery, you know.
But
Call it like it
yeah,
is.
no, there was. I mean, the Bible says, or God says in I think it might be Job. All of creation testifies of me. So he's saying, or displays my handiwork. Or no, the firmament, exalts my handiwork. But he says also, I believe it's in Job, that all of creation testifies of me. And I've always understood that as anywhere you look, you're going to see God somewhere. I mean,
Well, that's
I
the
remember I was
idea. Let
watching.
me ask you a question. God is infinite, right?
Absolutely.
So how can you be a part of it? I mean, apart from it.
Apart from it, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You can't be. Everybody, soul, consciousness, whatever you want to call it, that's God.
Yeah.
See,
So
to
this
me,
idea,
God created God was all powerful, different dimensions even. I mean, he created, string theory talks about 11, 12 dimensions right now. Like, we don't know shit about the third one. Like, can we imagine what, like, the other ones are going on? Like, Graham Hancock is recently talking about, and I wrote about this in one of my books before it even came out. But basically, they have what's called DMT drip now, right now, where they can keep you under.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, people are starting to map out that world. But basically, yeah, God to me is basically, what do you do when everything is perfect? The only way to experience is to splinter off and experience yourself subjectively, which is what I think we're doing individually. I think we're all subjectively experiencing one another, our five senses, our problems that we have, pain, love, everything.
It's like one consciousness experiencing all.
Well, that's what they all say. It's one
Right.
consciousness experiencing it.
I can see how this could strengthen some people's faith, because again, the sky
Look, I'm
clock
just present. Listen,
impacts,
the only thing I ask people to do, look, I have my own thoughts, but the only thing I ask people to do is, like, when I put together all this stuff, is you can't really deny what I show. It's pretty logical. The way that, if there's just if the Bible is just meant to be read a different way, it's meant to be read a different way. I think that reading it as a literal text is one way to read it, but I don't think that's deep at all.
Well, no, there's the Bible's meant to be read, and this has always been my beef with people who have like a dogmatic view about something about the Bible but don't ever read it. It's like, you can read it metaphorically, you could read it literally, and you're going to get the same gist, but you have to read it. It's like you can't deny one or the other. There is some literal, like, there's a lot of literal things in there, but then there are also a lot of things that are metaphoric, or the prophets, they're always seeing something that it's like, I don't know what that is. It's a giant wheel. Like, you read through Isaiah and, like, you see the stuff that he's seeing, and you're like, well, this can't be literal. Like,
right.
when, even in Revelation, when John is seeing the end of,
The dragon in the sky
eon,
and all that.
And there's, Apollyon opens up the gates of hell, and opens up the abyss, and the locust with the man's face and the woman's hair and the body like a lion, and it flies like a locust, and it's biting people and they don't die. It's like, that's not.
Well, I've gone over that in
the
the Bible. The woman's hair, that's Virgo. The man, that's Aquarius. The lion's teeth is Leo. There's 3 signs in there right there.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's like got an astrological, a tie to it. It clearly, I mean, but then yeah, it's like, so people can understand it, but it's like, is there going to be something literally come out of some other dimension? Maybe, probably not though. It's metaphoric for something, and also he was seeing something in the future and doing his best to describe it.
The reason I do what I do is because there are people, a lot of people, that reach out to me and they go, I've had this religious guilt, fear of the after, or of like hell. I've had this fear to my core of it every day. That's all they think about is going to hell. And your explanation makes more sense to me, and it kind of saved my life. I get those messages, and I go, thank you, because you should not. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but to read the Bible literally, you have to believe that you are an innumerable sinner, and you are beyond salvation. But don't worry, there is a salvation for you. All you have to do is believe. And then people stop questioning things. You know, I don't like to go around apologizing for being alive. That's just how I live my life.
Yeah, that's kind of the psyop part of it, I think, personally. You know what I mean? It's just like, it's like the Q thing. Just trust the plan. You know what I mean? But there is so much more that's going on. You know what I mean? It's like, you're only going to figure out things if you read the Bible or do the research. You know what I mean? Like, just sitting
the
back
only
and
way I
being
could
like,
see somebody
"Oh,
getting upset or whatever, or like you pointing out astrological things, is because they don't read the Bible. And so it's like it's foreign to them because they've never actually read most of it. You know, they'll go to church 2 times a week or 2 times a year and be like, well, that was my thing, and I got it. I think I get it. But it's like there's a lot, like when we talk about hollow earth, and he's like, oh, there's caverns under the earth and blah blah blah. I'm like, actually, you know, like it doesn't necessarily go against my belief in the Bible. It talks about busting open the deep, and that's where all the whole flood came from. And people are like, oh, the pyramids are way older than we thought they were, and that the erosion on the top appears to be water. Like, yeah.
But you want to know something interesting about that too? You don't really kicked it off for me. Look at the direction the Sphinx is facing. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
The water would have hit it 12,000 years ago. 12,000 years ago, where the Sphinx was facing was the constellation Leo, the lion.
right.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Or you can go back like what, 32,000. I might be wrong on that number, but because like listening to Graham Hancock a lot, he talks about it could have been 12,000 years ago, or it could have been the one before that, however many 100,000 years ago. Last time it was facing Leo, and that's kind of where I'm at. I think that the civilizations go back not to the last time when the Sphinx was facing Leo, but to the time before that, right? The cycle before that.
Yeah,
you know, and that's when you get into like the Anunnaki and the Atlantis and all that.
Again,
shit.
it's like you can, for me, who you know does take, I don't say all. I think I appropriately administer what's metaphoric and what's not with the Bible. It's like hearing something like that. It's like, yeah, if you read, you know, and you look at what we have discovered about ancient civilizations and pyramids and stuff, it makes perfect sense that they're not built by Egyptians.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense that they're built by Egyptians.
Listen, guys, I have to jet because I have another podcast to do tonight.
Oh my goodness.
For my other show. So I'm kind of in a rush. I hate to burst everybody's bubble here, but
you got a hard exit.
Yeah, I got a hard exit here, guys. But you got anything like final thoughts you want to throw out, Micah?
Yeah, man, plug your stuff.
Start out there to all the hate mail that I'm gonna get. I'm on Twitter at Real Mr. Dank. I'm on Facebook and Instagram at Micah Dank. Just reach out to me. My 6-book series is out there, and I've written it in a fun way. They're basically like Dan Brown thrillers, where the characters discover all this kind of esoteric information instead of me just spitting it out. You know, and I sell signed copies from my house if you guys are interested. Nice. Just reach out to me. I have a Facebook group, Micah Dank Into the Rabbit Hole, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Just reach out to me.
Cool, man. And you're not going to get hate mail. Trust me. Most of our listeners are so deep into the rabbit hole on so many different things that, trust me, people are going to love this shit. You know what I mean? It is dense. I think anybody listening should go watch, because having a visual aid definitely helps. Because I've listened to you 10 times.
That's why I asked you guys for the. Yeah, was this the first time you actually saw it?
This is the first time I've watched it. Now I have seen like little clips here and there, you know, floating around, but this is the first time that I sat here and, you know, let you do the whole spiel. That's why I didn't want to interrupt you. Most people will probably be more mad that we didn't crack a lot of jokes for an hour and a half, because we usually interrupt our guests and we're like cracking jokes and talking shit. But I really wanted to just like,
we don't bust your flow up.
I appreciate it. Well, if you guys want to set up another one, I'll do Revelation and Enoch with you.
I was just gonna say next time we got to do Enoch, and
I'll do Revelation and Enoch.
Yeah.
As long as you're both here, though.
Yeah, absolutely. That sounds sick, dude.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
man.
Well, thank you for coming on.
Thanks, man.
I thoroughly enjoyed it. That was awesome.
Yeah.
I hope you really learned stuff.
Yeah, I did for sure.
Okay?
So
You know, we can have different beliefs on the outcome of things, but this is the kind of information that needs to come out.
yeah, for sure. And I think, I think we probably have a lot more in common than not in common, even if there is
Oh,
different
100%.
opinions, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, man, I really appreciate you, dude. I appreciate the time. I know we went a little longer than I told you, so I appreciate you being cool with that. And
No, it's fine. You guys got the full presentation. I added like 8 or 9 slides since it. So you guys are like the first ones that I did it with.
Nice.
Spicy. Anyways, appreciate it, man. I'll put all your shit in the notes and make sure everybody can find you, and I'll have this uploaded probably in like a week. So
All right, tag me on Twitter and Insta.
yep,
You got
sounds
it,
good,
bud.
brother.
Take care. It was really nice meeting you guys.
Nice
too,
meeting you
man.
too, man. Have a good
Later.
one.
Yep. Bye.